by posting about that brand all the time and talking about it and positioning myself in the right way, that has led to amazing opportunities since we sold it, and it's beneficial. It was beneficial to the company itself and to myself. So just know that anything that you do that benefits yourself at the moment on LinkedIn is also going to benefit collaborative communications. And that's kind of the key here, is just not trying to sound overly exactly like you are the company. Now, you're a person that works there. Like, you have your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own everything. And but the more you can elevate your status and your visibility, the better it's going to help the brand. And then no matter what happens, whether you stay with Collaborative for 20 years or you eventually things change, it's going to be mutually beneficial for everyone to make this a priority. And I think, and there's no better time than now to make that a priority of like growing your own brand and increasing your own visibility. So that's just where I thought. I'm really excited to be here. I was hoping to. I don't know that I had, my son was in the hospital all last week. I'm a little flustered in some of this. Like, I'm getting caught up on the exact strategy that Ellie and I have we've talked about before, but like where we're kind of at. So I might hop in and add a couple things, and but it should be a fun meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Have
sir.
fun. Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's just get started again. We've got limited time on this, so we're going to be blazing through a lot of things. We will have a little bit of Q&A here, but as I mentioned, we'll do some additional trainings as well. Just like on the AI stuff, the thing that we're going to do is we'll do this meeting, and then afterwards we're going to send y'all an assessment and ask like where you need some additional support on an individual basis. Let us know from there, and we'll just provide those trainings. The first thing I'd like to put it up for is just legitimately 101. And Ryan, I'm going to ask you this question. I guess we've already got buy-in that LinkedIn's important, right? Like that's why people are already on this call, so I'm not worried about that. I guess the question then that I would have as we get into this is like, why does LinkedIn still matter? Like, what is it today about LinkedIn? Because we could be having conversations about optimizing people's personal brands. Hey, why don't I go by rylaholly.com and build my presence there? What is it specifically about LinkedIn that's going to be so important for this team?
The reason it's valuable is like there's really one core reason. Like, every social media has the ability to grow on it. Is people are actively wanting to grow their social media. It's like trying to grow like an Instagram account or like your own personal website, like you said, or even like TikTok or any other social media. It's difficult. Well, LinkedIn, that's the whole point of the site, is to connect with new people and to grow your network. So it's easy to grow. Also, it's the only place on the internet that has relatively accurate. Now, not everyone has updated their profile, but relatively accurate professional data on the users that you can use as a way to make sure you're getting in front of the right people instead of just random people that have no benefit moving forward at all. And so that's why it's important. Plus, it just keeps growing. There's been kind of a resurgence as social media sites have fractured over the years. Like, it used to be for a long time, like there's one dominant social site. It'd be like Facebook, for example. Now the people are everywhere, but the one place that stay consistent for this type of work and growing a personal brand has been LinkedIn. And I'm not even just trying to tell you link. That's just the truth of it. There's different social media sites that come and go. Most of them are for entertainment. This is the only one that's not. It is for professional reasons. And if you look at the stats, and I pay attention because I use LinkedIn all the time for my clients, I look every time they have like an earnings report for their shareholders meeting. So I'll just pay attention to like the stats, because that's when they'll publish the most recent stats. It's constantly improving with engagement and in total members. So it's the place to be. It hasn't like fallen off like some places have. It's still growing, and there's a lot of utility built into it for exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, and along those lines, we treat employers, employees, business development people, people in the research phase, or clients. Everybody treats LinkedIn as a search engine now. Truly, it used to be like we had those conversations about Google or maybe even YouTube. LinkedIn's the same. Like, people use it as a search engine, and they go in, and especially your clients. We've all seen this, right? I can't imagine. Let me put it this way: when we were looking to talk with the Collaborative Communications the first time, I saw like 7 notifications on LinkedIn. Like, oh, I guess they're interested because they're all looking at my LinkedIn profile, right? So it's one of those things that we know happens. It's a really active piece, and it's great. The other thing that Ryan mentioned there, and we'll be talking a little bit about this today, but in further trainings as well, is people are using LinkedIn in very specific ways, um, effectively. Now, you can use LinkedIn as as a standard social media platform. I guarantee everybody here could go to their LinkedIn page, find examples of John Small, who posted like some ridiculous like meme that had nothing to do with anything on their LinkedIn, and then everybody has to see that as a post. We're going to tell you to not do that, because you're going to be invalidating yourself and invalidating your brands. Now, we will tell you to go post on LinkedIn. That is different. The types of things to post there, how you do it, when you do it, should you repost, should you do all those things? That's part of this. But specifically, people are on LinkedIn for business reasons. This is also fully in alignment with the collaborative communications brands, and frankly, the longer term personal brands that you all have as well. So just be aware of that, and that'll be something that we consistently talk about. All right, so I'm going to share a very boring screen, which is going to be the agenda for now. And then and we'll talk through a lot of this stuff. We will, depending on timing, we will try to pull up some live action stuff as well. And then, as I said, afterwards, we'll be going through some additional trainings as well after this, what we'll provide you on your YouTube channel. The first step is we're going to go into the foundations. So for your space specifically, on your LinkedIn profile, each of you needs to have a professional high resolution headshot. Here's the thing for this. This is true specifically for your industry. Believe it or not, we don't always say that at all, but specifically for your industry, regardless if you're a partner in the business, you work in creative, maybe you're even an intern, you want to have a professional high-res headshot. Why? Because of the industry that you're specifically in. So
Elliot, thank you. We do pay for that for everybody, so that's available to everyone.
Perfect. Exactly. Great. Great to hear that, Terry. And the other part of that, which most of you all actually already have, is a nice banner at the top of the page. Now, this has actually been something. Again, this is a recommendation that I have not always made. That we have not always made is when we say the banner on top of the page, we're talking about that piece that goes next to your image. That is like the first imagery that people see. Historically, believe it or not, even up until about a year ago, we actually suggested people not make edits to that. The first couple iterations of LinkedIn edits for that were pretty underwhelming and came across as far less professional. Now it's an expectation. So make sure that you're editing that as well. Here's where we're actually going to get into more of like the juicy stuff that I think is going to be a lot more helpful for y'all, because most of your banners are right. Most of y'all already have good images. Let's start talking about the things that are actually on your profile. The first thing that we have up here is your headline. Now, this is one we did as a quick note. We did lots of audits on collaborative communications on the headlines about all of your profiles and what you have. This is one of the biggest places that we could see some really quick movement and improvements from what we're currently seeing. So most people like to have like a headline like this. They post on their LinkedIn profile and they say, when it says like in their headline, hey, I'm an account executive at fill in the blank. I'm an account executive at Collaborative. I'm an account representative, or I do marketing for petroleum. I do whatever. That actually is super not helpful in a couple of reasons. Number one, we said people use LinkedIn as a search engine. So think if you go to Google and you type in account manager at Rivet on Google. If everything on Google says the exact same thing, nothing is going to grab your attention. It also doesn't tell us anything about what you actually do. This tells us how you're impacting, and it doesn't grab those eyeballs with that attention. So instead of starting with something that's as simple as an account executive, we want you to actually tell a story and talk about what's listed there. So I'm not an account executive at Rivet. I'm helping health tech leaders streamline onboarding through growth-focused SaaS consultants, right? Collaborative's the same way. And again, this is going to be helpful for you regardless if you're a partner at Collaborative or if you're in creative or if you're in marketing or whatever. You want to talk a bit more about what you actually do and how you're impacting people. And a quick other note about this is if you're a partner at Collaborative, we're gonna suggest that you include that you're a partner in Collaborative, because that allows you to have additional prestige there. If you're not a partner, it's not your company. So you may not want to include that you work at this specific entity, but that's not going to hurt you at all. Ryan, I want to hand it over to you for a second to talk about this and talk about anything that I may have missed here.
Yeah. The point is for the people to, I mean, if they don't know what collaborative communications is as a company, because that's a lot of people won't be. That's part of the purpose. It's like you can, you want people to know what you do, especially collaborative communications. It's like people can use that in their title as like an actual benefit of what they do, like because the way the name is structured. The key here is just letting people know exactly what you do and why you're worth paying attention to. The one caveat here, which is mentioned on there, is if you are like a high ranker, if your job title is prestigious, it's nice to include that in there. Like for example, if you were a partner at the company, which I don't know if anyone on this call is, but if you were, then you
Ryan,
including yeah.
it just seems to me that there's been a shift in these banners over time, and more people are putting these kind of why statements or things that they are intriguing about them or whatever. Can you just speak for a second about how people are shifting those?
Like you talking about how or why or both?
Well, just, I mean, what are there new rules for this banner? Because I feel like it's shifted. Like people are putting much more interesting things in their descriptor.
I think it's just becoming more and more of a. I think it speaks to the increased engagement and increased like usage of LinkedIn for this purpose. And there's just honestly more people teaching like best practices on LinkedIn out there than there were 5, 6 years ago. And because when I first started link selling, we did this for clients and we had training programs. We were like the only ones doing it for the most part. There are a handful of others. Now there's tons, and so people trying to sell courses on this. And I think that's why, and the best way to do it is to try to figure out like depending on your role, like what you do for the company and how to tie that into what the company does, because you want to make sure what the company does is involved in it as well. And so the main purpose is like there's nothing all that interesting about somebody's job title unless you're like the CEO of a large company or something, like you're like the owner or. But if I was, for example, if I was I do consulting work with Elliot at Michael Curtis Media. If I just put consultant at Michael Curtis Media, that only matters to people that know who Michael Curtis Media is at the moment. It doesn't matter to anyone at all. And so just making sure that the point is, I think people have just realized like, yeah, there is no benefit to doing that, to just include just saying your job title. And that's why they're moving it. They're switching to more of an interesting headline. And to me, it's just there's no reason not to, because it takes like 5 minutes to figure out like, hey, this is what we do and how we help people. So when people do, because the big benefit is not somebody going to your LinkedIn profile. People will do that, but this shows up anytime you post something or anytime you do anything on LinkedIn. It'll show your name and then your job, your headline, and like what you do. And so you'll constantly be having a way of telling people the benefit of interacting with you at all. And I think that's important, especially in a role that's like sales, is it can disarm. If the sales role is called like account executive or sales, business development or whatever, like that turns people off as well. Like if you're in a sales role or a business development role, that can turn people off because they're like, I'm going to connect with this person and they're going to immediately sell me something or try to sell me something. But if you speak to the benefit of what your brand does, uh, it's related to what they do or related to their interests, they're much more likely to engage with you, connect with you, and just pay attention to you. And so that's why people are shifting to that, is because there's really no benefit in not, in my opinion.
Thank you for that, Ryan. So we'll give y'all again. We've already created a bot for all for this. It's also going to be very straightforward. How to make that quick tweak. Okay. Next up that I want to talk about is the About Us section. So headline was the top way that people could be that could be improved at collaborative in general. I put the About Us section as the third best way overall that could be improved, and we're going to get to the second one here in a little bit. But in general, we like to see you write your About Us section in this format: hook, value, and proof. Marketing 101, right? So instead of having an about you section that says, hey, I have 10 years experience doing business development, just like Ryan was talking about, we want you to actually talk about the solution here, right? I help mid-sized companies do X, Y, Z. I provide the value and I give you proof on that. Now, here's a couple of meta things on this that are actually really important, and why this About Us section is so important to you. I mentioned at the beginning of this call, whenever we started our engagement with Collaborative, I got like 7 of y'all that looked at my LinkedIn profile, right? In the About Us section, there are things that we can drop in here that are going to baby bird people to know that we are the right resource for them to know about. The same thing will happen to you, both on a corporate level and an individual basis. So for instance, let's say you guys get done with an education, let's say you get done with your vouchers campaign, and you're helping people in Arizona. Again, just pulling this out of thin air. And you can actually mention this in your About Us section. Why? Because this is when other companies or other grant providers are going to be looking for additional resources. They're going to be looking at you and your competitors. If we can drop in good information in this About Us section that we've actually done this type of thing before, then that communicates to them that we're the right people for the job. For you personally, again, it doesn't matter if you're in marketing, sales, creative, design, whatever, you want to do the same thing here. Now, the good doctor is going to ignore this part of the conversation. If you're looking for if you're looking to increase your personal brand down the road, nothing is going to be able to communicate that better than you being able to do this About Us section and talk about the types of work that you've done in the past. That's going to let other possible employers or partners know that that's going to be extremely that you're the right fit for their role. Now, again, I'm not as concerned about that for y'all. Everybody that works at Collaborative has been there for like 30 years, but just keep that in mind as you continue to go here. Experience and skills. So again, this is one of those things that we've actually made a very big focus on, not only business development, but how you can personally help yourself. I want to spend a ton of time here because I want to get to the other things on this list, but focus on measurable impacts, and add client case studies, white papers, and video demos for each, and this is true for every single person on this call. Here's what I mean by that. If Collaborative Communications releases a client case study about a specific project that you're working on, not only is Collaborative going to release that case study, you should also be posting that case study or white paper on your profile, but talking specifically about how you were impacting that specific project, right? So again, I keep going back to creative primarily because I see Riley at the top of my screen. But let's say that you wanted to release something about, again, an educational program or educational project that you worked with before. You release the overall white paper on what Collaborative has done on that, but then say, hey, I was really excited to work as the creative director on this project in which we did X, Y, and Z, right? So two things happen there. To what Ryan was talking about earlier, the overall company also gets the benefit of seeing of that additional listing and that additional post. It's going to help the company as well, but it's also going to help you personally and your personal brand get grown as well by eyeballs on that. Ryan, is there anything that you want to add to that specifically, or specifically as it relates to this post?
No, the key benefit to all of this is that like everyone wants to work with a superstar company for whatever needs they need. So in this instance, like, public relations, but more importantly, they want to work with a company that has a team full of superstars, because that's the people they're going to have to deal with. Now, if they constantly are seeing it now, if even if they're connected with, let's just say, a handful of you, or they look into the business and they see like, wow, 50% of the people that work there are constantly hyping up the work they're doing, talking what they're doing, seem to be in key roles there. They have a team full of really brilliant, smart, responsible people. Like that's something that can change the difference than just going to a website and seeing beautiful creative. Is if like they're going to research you and be like, this team is a team of 8 players, and the benefit, and the reason we keep talking the benefit to you is because you got to have some benefit to yourself, to feel motivated to do this outside of your normal day to day. But it will benefit you in plenty of ways. And being able to show that like this is not just a really good company, but it's a company full of really good people is more important than just people knowing it's a good company, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I'm Michael. I'm sorry, Elliot. I'm aware that we have a little bit of time. Do you mind just doing like an overview, and then anybody can stay on if they want, but if people have to leave, they know what they're going to get in the next day or so.
Sure. So let's talk. So yeah, I'll give you again. I'm aware that we only have 30 minutes for this call. What we're going to do is we're going to stick around. We're going to talk about some difference between LinkedIn Basic, Premium, Sales Navigator, how it affects you. We're going to talk about creator mode. That's going to be a big one for y'all. And that's going to be something we're going to encourage every single one of y'all to do. It's going to be very helpful for you individually. And then we'll talk about like basically strategic placements and how you can use AI to make everything a bit better. When we do, and then after this, we're already planning on this being part 2 because we knew we weren't going to get to it today. I'm going to go through a couple of walkthroughs of a couple of accounts and how we actually make them better and actually show you that as well. So that's at a 50,000 foot view of what we're going to handle.
Great, thanks.
Okay. So with that said, if we know that we're getting close to time, if some of you have to fall off for another call, completely understands. we will continue to move forward with this, and then also I'll be recording. So I do want to set Ryan up for this. So Ryan, we know that there's multiple different iterations of LinkedIn. We have a lot of people here on LinkedIn Basic versus Premium. We have some people using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Will you give us just a 50,000 foot view breakdown of each one and what your recommendation is?
Well,
And for anybody, and for anybody that's going to stick around for this, we are going to do a little bit of Q&A on this portion as well.
yeah, I mean, the really the main difference is that with the free account, you have limited access to filters, and more importantly, you have limited access to the amount of profiles you can view and the amount of activity that you can have. They basically, they don't say that they, and they don't say that they suppress, your reach. I have, the people that have Sales Navigator linked to Premium always have more reach, so I don't know if I necessarily believe them when they say they don't. The biggest benefit though is they're both paid. Sales Navigator is far better, especially if anybody that's in a business development program or is going to be aggressively messaging people and growing their own network as part of this work. Mainly because, and I'm just going to go through like why LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
One, Ryan, give them a quick doubt, like just the 30 seconds of what is LinkedIn Basic, what is LinkedIn Premium, and what is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Like we've got some people on the call that don't understand that there's 3 different ones on that.
Yeah, there's technically 4. There's a recruiter one too, but the LinkedIn Basic is just your normal LinkedIn that everyone is on. LinkedIn Premium has just the only benefit to it is that you get a little badge on your profile, and you get you can see everyone who has viewed your profile, which is nice because right now if you don't have it, I personally at the moment don't have it because I'm not currently looking for new clients at the moment. But when I do have it right now, so right now when I go to the people who viewed my profile, I can only see a handful of them, and usually it's if they're a second degree connection or if I've interacted with them in some way. That's the main benefit. You get additional with LinkedIn Premium. You get additional in-mail messages. That it's basically just kind of a ramped up LinkedIn profile. You get access to more activity, right? You get access to being able to message more people, view more profiles, view more information about the people that view your profile. I don't actually have in my head the exact message amounts that you could send more than just a basic account, but because that doesn't necessarily matter. I don't think anyone here is going to be sending out hundreds and hundreds of messages every single day on LinkedIn at the moment. So there's that. It's just LinkedIn Premium. So there's LinkedIn Basic, which is your normal free LinkedIn account. LinkedIn Premium, which I believe is $60 a month, allows you to send messages to more people and do more things. LinkedIn Sales Navigator gets you access to a completely different interface within LinkedIn. It has some sort of like, if you are in sales or business development, which I don't know if anyone here is, but it allows you to kind of track your leads and what you're doing and saving and create like saved searches. The biggest benefit of it is that it has additional filters, including one that says anybody that's posted in LinkedIn in the last 90 days. You can build a list of the right people that you want to connect with who are also active on LinkedIn currently, because there are a lot of people that create, LinkedIn profiles and then just don't touch it, and it's not the same thing as Instagram or, any of the other, or, Facebook, even from back in the day, or TikTok. People are not just hanging out on there on a Saturday night for the most part. But it will give you access to if you are going to be spending effort to try to expand your network and to interact with people. It will allow you to build lists of people that are active on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's the key benefit.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm just looking for a quick update between the 3 of them. So because I got that question directly. So as it relates to this, Ryan, like when people are seeing us on LinkedIn, there's a great question here. I'd love to get your perspective on it. When people are they just went through a big place where they're updating their bios on the website versus what they have on LinkedIn. What's your perspective on if people have the same bio on the website as they do on LinkedIn? Do you see any issue with that or no?
No, the chances of somebody seeing both are slim, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone's going through the bios on the website and reading that all. I think more people will see it on your LinkedIn profile, especially if you're active on LinkedIn. So it can be the exact same thing if you like it and it fits kind of the best practices and just it paints you and collaborative communications in the best light.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So I want to get that quick answer, that question answered quickly. So one of the other things that we talked about that we kind of mentioned a little bit is posting, right? So we've just kind of talked about it. We up to this point we've said like, hey, high level, make sure you're kind of these different sections, and make sure it looks like this, make sure we include X, Y, and Z. Again, frankly, like not a lot of like rocket science stuff, especially if you've done it a couple times. I think where some of the higher level questions that we're going to have on this stuff that I want to talk about for a second are the difference between, first off, what does it mean to actually post on LinkedIn? I got a direct question here asking about that. Like you can post, like somebody said, you can post on LinkedIn. Yes. So we'll talk about that. I also want to talk about the difference between like the company posting versus if you individually post, like why do either one? And then we'll talk about reposting as well. Make sense? So we're good?
Mhm.
Cool. So Ryan, I'm going to open the floor to you for a second. So, hey Ryan, can you post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, you can, and you should. That's on it. Once you get the most of the stuff we went through earlier, it's just like how do you make yourself look good on LinkedIn? So if somebody views you, there's zero chance they're gonna like turn them off, right? You know, they're gonna view you like, oh, this is a smart professional person. Like that's really what you want them to do, and to give them any reason to continue to look into you. That's why you want to have a nice picture. That's why you want to have like your stuff, your profile buttoned up. But the posting is really where you're going to get the most traction in terms of growing your brand and helping collaborative communications, and that's all about, and I don't know how much you want to go into like post types. I don't know how much time we have, Elliot, but like that's really where you is there's two ways to kind of make hay here. It's to grow your network by sending connection requests to the people that you would be working with within the business or prospects of every communication or other professionals in related fields, depending if that means if you're doing the actual PR work and you need to get and be in touch with more, have more media contacts or more how I don't have all of the details of exactly the work that you do, but for example, I have one client of mine, and they're an author, and they do keynote speaking at like large companies, for like Disney, Deloitte, companies like that. And one of the things that we're just doing is getting them connected with other people in media, so she can have more things written about her. And so that's just one way you can do it. It's finding out the right types of people that you want to be reaching out to, doing that, and then posting any success you have, bragging about yourself a little bit, bragging about the company, and then giving educational any advice to those who are not currently clients, because you can't even give away much information, because if you're connecting with, you don't want to just be connected with competitors, other PR professionals. Connect with the types of people you want to work with, and then tell people what they need to be thinking about, or share examples of work that you've done with the project and why it was important, the work that you did, both on a personal level, like why are you invaluable and why was the company invaluable and the strategy, why did it help? And it'll get other people thinking like, oh, I need to be doing more of that, or I need to be reconsidering who I'm working with in that area. And most likely they're not going to do it themselves. If they're connecting with the right people, they're going to be looking for another option. And by you being the one that's sharing that, that means collaborative communications or you yourself will be in contention.
So,
When they
so
think
this is
about it.
something we talked a little bit before. I think we talked about it a little bit when I was in DC, with meeting with the partners. The one of the things I want to talk with you all about is like the different posting and oh, Terry, it's like you're reading my mind. This is great. The is about is that like the type of posting that you can do. I'm not going to go into the intimate details on the type of LinkedIn post. I'm going to talk about like the overall tone of voice, what you should be personally, what you should be brand, and the impact of each. And we'll also talk about reposting as well. So whenever we deal with a client, and whenever we're dealing with their overall brand and their individual LinkedIn accounts, view it the following. We view while the collaborative communications LinkedIn account will have its own tone of voice, it will tend to be far more, we almost view it as a library, right? The content that we're going to post out of that account, again, it's okay for it to have a tone of voice, but we've said this before, collaborative communications is not Wendy's. So if you go to Wendy's like social media accounts, Wendy's is your definition of a troll. Like it goes in, it picks fights with other social media accounts. It does all of these things. And yes, one of my personal things, one of the ways that I personally do, like come down after a day of not being able to come down after I get my kids down, is I'll pull up their Twitter profile and laugh my tail off. Love it. They are hilarious. I'm not saying collaborative communications can't be fun. What I am saying is like the overall brand aesthetic that we have is far more corporate and far more formalized. That's going to be what we're released on the collaborative communications formal profile. Your personal LinkedIn profile, we want you to certainly have more of a tone of voice that sounds like yourself. That's far less. It can be far less or far more subdued. It's going to be depending on how you personally sounds, but it should have your own perspective on this, right? So a case on this could be like, so a very an example of this could be we'll use a campaign. We'll use again an education-based campaign as an example here. Let's go back to an example of vouchers in Arizona. And there's all kinds of reasons why I'm using that as the example. Let's say the Collaborative Communications brand channel on LinkedIn publishes a white paper specifically on what's going on in Arizona as it relates to vouchers and like what's going on. And this is the study that they've done and conducted. This is the information that Collaborative Communications has found out. Very like straight-laced. Maybe it skews one way or the other, positive or negatively, but it's really going to be talking about the work that was done, A plus B equals C. Your personal LinkedIn accounts, you can have more of a perspective on it. Now, I'm not telling you to light the world on fire on your LinkedIn account. I'm not telling you to go pick up fights with brands and stuff like that. But you can talk a little bit more about the advocacy, your strong perspective, positively or negatively about an incident, how you contributed to it or did not contribute to it, and the directions that you wanted it to go, right? So in case in point could be Collaborative Communications helps with vouchers being understood better in Arizona. Nicole could then post on her personal LinkedIn, I love being involved in these types of things because I feel so passionate about vouchers in this area because X, Y, and Z. Here's an example of something that we did with Collaborative Communications, and that way you can actually talk about that in a tone of voice, right? Does that make sense? Like it's a little bit of nuance, but but it is specific. As it relates to reposting, and this is one of those places that LinkedIn is a bit different. And Ryan, feel free to pop in on this if you want or not. So if you go to like a Facebook or an Instagram, even Blue Sky, even X for sure, reposting there is not really a problem. Like they want you to repost people's content as much as possible within reason. Like that's not an issue. LinkedIn reposting, while I would say you can do it, 9 times out of 10, I want you to, instead of just reposting, 100% of the time, instead of just reposting an article or what somebody else is saying, I want you to write, call it 15 to 50 words of your own that's specifically about that thing you're reposting, and don't just repost the article. If you just repost a post or an article on LinkedIn, that is a good way if you do it over time, that is a good way to have your account locked in, and you're going to lose a lot of the breadth that you would originally by just reposting, right? Because you'll be seen as a scam account or a spam account, and you won't be able to get you won't get the eyeballs that you want to historically. So just be aware of that. Like reposting is different on LinkedIn than it's other places.
And mainly just LinkedIn prioritizes original content. Even if you are sharing something very similar to the content you would have reposted, they give preference to original content. And also like it kind of eliminates the point. You want to be seen as a person, not a company. And so just sharing your own post of like with your own thoughts and your own perspective on it, I think not only just is it valuable to the people that follow you, it's just a better look than parroting exactly what the company said. Even if it is the same thought, you're giving your own little twist to it. And just sharing like, I looked at the website right now, has like an after school network case study on it, and just sharing like how proud you were to work on the program and how, thankful you are that now these children are going to have, somewhere to go after school. And I don't know the details of the program, but something like that. And just talking about the different things that you thought about and why it was rewarding to work on the project is great, and because it helps connect with potential other people that could want to work with y'all, that you cared about the programs that you worked on and you saw the value in what was happening, and in your involvement is better than just reposting. I mean, you could still repost, but then if you reposted a company page, then I would then hop right back on and then give your own thoughts in your own post if you wanted to. I think that's the most important part.
That's helpful.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Okay, so I know we're at like 11 minutes past, and we are going to deliver training outside of this. There are like, call it 5 or 6 hot button things that I do want to just talk about super high level right now. And then end this in the next 8 minutes, so you can have your time back, and then we'll provide the trainings in your YouTube accounts. I also want to give you all the opportunity to ask any burning questions you have in the chat right now, so that we can actually answer them in short term. The first is was the second biggest opportunity. It's not actually on the agenda, but I want to talk about it. The second is the next is the second biggest opportunity for y'all internally as it relates to collaborative communications and it's your LinkedIn accounts. Most of you on your personal LinkedIn accounts, when it relates to your jobs and your experiences, you literally just list your job title at where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're at Collaborative or Wendy's or anywhere else that you've previously worked. Where your experiences are listed are a phenomenal place for you to actually not just give us your job title, but tell us what you did. That is a super important one. Just give us a sentence or two. We mentioned it super high level earlier, but that's like a massive one for you. And you'll notice that we actually notate that on most of your audits is to provide that. That's a super important one. The second thing I want to mention, just super high level here, is we mentioned now 3 times that LinkedIn is now a search engine. So you need to view your profile on LinkedIn like it's a search engine. Almost consider it like old school SEO. That means we need to have keywords and stuff within your LinkedIn profile that people can search, and when they search, your name pops up. This is again true if you're talking about your corporate brand, your current position, or your personal stuff that you do, right? So we want to make sure if you're a graphic designer, you're mentioning that you do graphic design work on an ongoing basis throughout your profile. There is that you can even, and this is not gray hat. This is fine. That you can even stuff some of the keywords like in your profile. What I mean by that is make sure that you're mentioning them a few times a piece if it's something that's really important to you. Now, don't get crazy with it. Don't write, I'm a graphic designer that likes to graphic design graphics and design that. Like, that's ridiculous. But like, you want to make sure that both the things that you like to do and the things that you want to do are listed in that profile. We'll give you some additional recommendations on that as we move forward. The other bells and whistles for y'all to know about is there is definitely a lot more personalization on LinkedIn than a lot of you think that there is, or at least that you've done so far on your profiles. For example, one of the things you can do on your LinkedIn profile is actually define what you want the URL to be on LinkedIn. So if you go to my personal LinkedIn, and there's good and bad on this. If you go to my personal LinkedIn is not linkedin.com/Elliot Pittman/A1578. My personal LinkedIn is linkedin.com/advertising strategist. Do you know how many people we've gotten as new clients just because my freaking LinkedIn is advertising strategist? Like, we get leads all the time. Like, not a day goes by where I don't get leads because that's my LinkedIn name. So think about that name, thinking about naming conventions like that for your personal LinkedIn, right? If you love, but also need to be thinking about like long-term, right? A good way to think about that is if you're in design, talk about like the design work that you do. Don't put your current design title unless you're like a creative director and that's what you want to do, right? Because if you say like, oh, I'm a / marketing support. Congratulations, you're now forever and ever marketing support on LinkedIn. You don't want that. You want to think like broader and more strategic ways on your profile. So there's a lot of different like little tips and tricks around that stuff that we'll give you as well, so that you can actually make some iterations on that. Ryan, is there any like other like 1 or 2 like just high level recommendations before we start talking about creator mode that you recommend as well?
No, not really. It's just like I want you to look at your profile and just be like, is there somebody who has no idea who I am or what the company is? I caught their attention in some way. How do I look? Can they tell what I do? Do I look professional? I think what the problem most people have with LinkedIn is they don't view themselves as important enough to be paid attention to. And if you do that, then the person who's viewing your profile will also think that. So like, feel good about yourself, put what you do, be proud of the work you do, and make sure that's visible everywhere. So because you are worth following, that's the whole point here. You know what I mean? You're worth paying attention to. And so that's really the main thing. That's just shift your mindset. If you're like, why would anyone follow me? Like, I do this role here at this company. Like, no, like, everybody needs help with everything. And so just make yourself worth following.
That's the most probiotic thing I've ever heard you say before in my entire life.
I was gonna say, let's start with that in the future. That
was like, Yeah, I'm like the capitalist guy over here, like trying to make money, and Ryan's like, "Yes, you're worth something. You should."
Yeah, you
Anyway,
well, I
all
mean,
right.
it's the same thing. I've always been like the number two everywhere I've worked at. Like I haven't been the face really, but then when I went on them, eventually, but I still had some visibility. And then I put a little effort into it. And like, oh yeah, people love the stuff that I do, and they love following what I do and they love seeing the updates. Like give yourself a little credit and and feel free to boast a little bit, you know, about the work that you do and how excited you are about different things. Anything that makes you happy professionally, I would talk about.
I love that.
Absolutely. I think that's great,
Let's
Ryan.
let's put that at the top of our document. Anything that makes you happy.
Well, it's so true. I'm so glad you brought that up, Ryan. And here's the thing again, this is uh not just endemic of CC. This is like we see this all the time. Like y'all are all good people, and y'all are all like I'm blown away by your level of professionalism. You need to brag a little bit on LinkedIn. You just need to. Just realize as much as it is for you, it's for the people that want to work with you. And while you may not feel braggadocious and it may not be your personality, I get that. But if they don't know how, if they have everybody has about I think it's like 8 seconds. People will view your LinkedIn profile for an average of like 8 seconds if they actually open the page. You need to give them a reason to stick around. And otherwise, you're going to be going to the very next person that they did that search on, looking for somebody that's going to fill their needs. So that's why we need some stuff on there that's going to really help them stick around, because you're really helping them as well. So the other thing that we don't really have time to get into today, and Ryan actually said this perfectly. One of the reasons I really enjoy working with Ryan is he's a bit more understated than I am, but he'll just drop something and I'm like, yeah, that was really smart. Which is creator mode on LinkedIn. This is going to be something that we give y'all a full training on, and I really want to dig into it, right? At a high level, the way that you need to view creator mode versus non-creator mode on LinkedIn is we want to give LinkedIn, we want to raise our hand to LinkedIn and say, hey, LinkedIn, I create content, it's valuable, and I want other people to see it, right? That's the way to view it. Now, this is true for you regardless if you are doing this specifically for collaborative communications or you're doing it for your own stuff. Like it's super important to do this. Now, the thing that Ryan said, I'm going to set you up, Ryan, to say what you said to me earlier because I don't want to steal it. On if somebody should have creator mode on or not, and talk a little bit about that. So, Ryan, should people have creator mode on?
Yeah, there's no reason not to. I genuinely think it's the way for LinkedIn to understand to prioritize who they should be talking about, giving a placement in like feeds they post, because all it does is give you access to more tools that you don't even have to use. And so the fact I have no idea why somebody would turn it off, unless they, I don't know, I honestly can't think of a use case for it. All creator mode does is it notifies LinkedIn that you are going to be posting on your on your LinkedIn profile, and it gives you access to do newsletters. It gives you access. It gives you the ability to change like the button at the top of your profile to follow instead of connect, and it allows you to go live on LinkedIn if you were going to be doing live, like live streams. I don't know if anyone is planning on doing that, but if you are, you have to have that turned on. There's really no reason not to. And so you might already have it turned on, but I would definitely check that box. And I honestly don't know if it gives you more visibility, but I've heard people say it does, and there's no reason to think it wouldn't. And because it lets LinkedIn know that you are planning to take LinkedIn seriously, and that you're at least paying attention to your profile.
Yeah, that's it. So in short, we're gonna give you like a 1, 2, 3, like there's like 6 steps that we have to turn it on. It's 6 steps, but it's like 3 button clicks. So just be aware of that. It's very simple to do. We're gonna give you the recommendation to do it. The only time I can't think of a reason for members of this team to not turn it on. The only thing that we've run into in the past is it doesn't play as well with some of our bots, but that's not something for you personally to be worried about. That's something like for whenever we're building some bots that play with LinkedIn, that's the only reason not to do it. So just be aware of that.
And Terry,
Go ahead, Ryan.
and Terry, your question, Terry asked, I don't understand the difference between following and connecting. There's one major difference. Like following is very similar to following like somebody's company page, but they're following your profile, so they see your posts and they you show up for them. It's a one-way street. They can't message you and send you, so that allows you like For example, if you're like an influencer or you have a large following, like let's just say you're Gary Vaynerchuk or something, you don't want 300,000 people to be able to message you directly every day because they will, trying to get your attention. So the following, having people follow you is more of like they get to see your posts and you stay in front of them. If you connect with them, it's like this is somebody I know. We can talk back and forth. Most of the time people don't, but it's mainly important. It's really important if you take this seriously, start growing to a certain level, you don't want to be getting 20, 30 messages every day, people asking asking you to do things for them.
Well, and on top of that, it's also they'll see your content as well. I can follow you, Terry, but if we're not connected, you're not going to see my content unless you're following me back. If we're connected, you'll see it.
So
right?
when in doubt, I would think for individuals, try to connect with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's mainly only important for more like public figures and those with like really large followings. Plus LinkedIn, the reason LinkedIn added it is at a certain point they capped how many connections you can have. I think like 25,000 or 50,000, and it doesn't really matter. But once you get to that point, then people can just follow you because your account's large enough anyway. And that's really why they introduced it. So yeah, I would send, like, if someone here was trying to grow the network, like by being proactive, just send connection requests to the right people.
For sure. Yeah. And yeah, in fact, the way I'll just to beat this dead horse buddy, our suggestion internally is like, if you're trying to do a business development or move your career forward, connect. If you're looking for education or just being notified, follow. Right. So you may follow like the New York Times because you want to see the stuff that they post, but you don't need to connect with the New York Times because you're not going to do a deal with them. Right. That's an example. Right.
That's a good
one. Excel. Did I say that right? Is it Excel? I've had an Excel before, but it was IC. I've never seen IT.
You said it right.
All right, cool. I saw a post the other day saying company pages on LinkedIn are dead. That people do not really want to see company updates as they care how they care. How true is this? Okay, got it. So I do want Ryan to answer this. I certainly have a perspective of it. It's also one of the reasons we suggest to you guys, hey, we keep our corporate brands one thing, and then we post with our personal brand something else. Ryan hit the nail on the head with it, which is people want to interact with people. They don't want to interact with your brands. They don't want to interact with your fake thing, right? So I wouldn't say that they're dead. I think that there is a place for them. I just wouldn't expect you to have the engagement on your company page that you have on your individual pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not entirely true, but it's not entirely false. Like to me, the big benefit of having a LinkedIn company page and posting on it is so someone goes to that page, they see content when they scroll through it. But in terms of visibility, personal profile sharing from that, it will be substantially more visible and people will pay attention to it more and interact with it more. Because nobody's like trying to jump on and be like, oh, great job, to a company. They're much more likely to like encourage an individual than they are to encourage a brand. Unless the brand is like somehow really tied into, unless the brand spends an outrageous amount of time on it, the personal brand. So like, I would treat that as borderline true. I wouldn't not post to the company page at all, but I think it's really important that individuals and subject matter experts within the company participate.
Yeah, so constant reminder to some of our clients that want to grow their like following is like, if you want to see your company page grow, you have to talk about it, right? Like they have to post, because some of our clients like post like zero and they want to like grow just their company pages. So
no, they should post. The individuals posting are it's far more important, and it also grows the brand, especially anyone that's like higher up in the company. Like if anybody, if everyone does it, it's incredible because it just amplifies it. It's just like, it just magnifies everything that you do. Now, if you're talking about a client of yours, like, yes, the individual needs to be posting about it because that's what's going to actually make things happen. Now, the company page is more of like a repository of like a list of like, here's some cool things that we've done. So if somebody's like sees a person post about it, who is this company they work for? Oh, cool, they did this thing for this company or this brand or that's great, but the individuals involved, it's far more important because people don't really care about what a company does, but they deeply care what humans do. And so, yeah, I wouldn't avoid it. I mean, one other cool thing you can do with the company pages too is like if you post to them, there's like once every 24 hours you can click a button that just like notifies all the employees at that company,
Oh,
which pops
okay.
up like a like it'd be like it's a collaborative communications just posted this and notified you. You know, I don't know, can't remember exactly the wording it says, but it pops up, and then that will trigger everyone on the team like, hey, if they're on LinkedIn, they'll see that and like, hey, you should just share this. You know, like repost
That's
it or
okay. Yeah.
share your own thoughts. LinkedIn was trying to sell that as like a service for a while, which was crazy. They're like, it's $900 a month, and you no, and they eventually just did it for free.
That's helpful. Thank you.
So I know we're only twice past our time. So I want to wrap it up, and we are going to provide several things for y'all. We knew that I was talking with Ryan this morning, and I was like, well, listen, buddy, we have a 90-minute training that we're going to try to get into 30 minutes.
Mhm.
We're going to try to primarily focus on the basics and then give them a bunch of stuff to follow up.
Mhm.
So we know that there's going to be follow up from here. We are going to send out some feedback requests for y'all and see what we need to dig into. There are also going to be several trainings that we're going to leave you for LinkedIn as well. How to activate creator mode, types of things to post, how to do it and when, how to tag the page, when and how to repost. We'll provide all that as a separate standalone training so y'all can access that. And then here's the last thing I want to leave y'all with, and I debated on presenting it this way, but I think that there's real value in it, and I think that you'll cling on to the important aspect of it. One of the reasons we love these conversations with companies like yours for LinkedIn specifically is there's always this dichotomy of like, okay, is this going to be good for our personal? Is this going to be good for me personally? Like LinkedIn's like my personal thing. Like it's my personal like brand. It's the way the business world sees me. And also, but it's also like my company thing. Like my company's also on LinkedIn, and how can they grow that? You know, the way that we view this is like a delicate balance. So I call it like a yin and a yang. The more that you can grow personally, the more that your company can grow as a company, everybody wins. It's truly an example of like a rising tide raises all ships. So much so that there's so many examples of big name people that have been associated with companies that they elevated, and because they were elevated, their company was elevated, or a company was elevated, and then somebody associated their own name with that company, and then they got elevated, right? So just be aware of that. I'm going to give you some examples of that as well in one of our YouTube videos. It's going to be about 4 minutes long of those examples. Some really good and positive, some less so. But just know that this is one of those things that's going to help all of you out. So with that, we'll let you go. If you don't have any other questions, feel free to send them our way, and we'll populate that training over the next couple days. Thank you all so
All right.
much.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks, Ryan. We'll definitely schedule an hour from now on.
For sure. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.